we're going to be talking about force the vote here, folks. All right. So if you're not familiar with force the vote, then please log off right now. Do not watch this video. I don't want to tell you about force the vote. You don't want to know about force the vote. So I suggest, again, if you don't know what force the vote is, I suggest turning this video off, right? Probably unsubscribing me, blocking me, because you should not be encountering that kind of material anywhere in your fucking, perusement of the internet, right? So definitely, again, this is your trigger warning here. So we had a clip happen a couple days ago from the Vanguard podcast that had Noam Chomsky on. And when you have Noam Chomsky on, and Brianna Joy Gray, she tweets about this. She's one of, she's a force the voter, right? So Brianna Joy Gray knows that when you have Noam Chomsky on your show, and again, I just want to say that, when Noam Chomsky went on the Bad Faith podcast, right? When you have Noam Chomsky on your show, what you got to do is you have to ask the dumbest questions possible, right? When you have one of the most interesting people on planet Earth, right, on your podcast, and I'm a Noam Chomsky fan. I don't agree with him on everything, but I like the guy. He's cool, right? If I were to have Noam Chomsky on my show, I would not be asking him about force the motherfucking vote. I would be more interested in asking him about his morning routine and, how often he brushes his teeth throughout the day than I would about asking him about force the vote. But Brianna Joy Gray, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to read this. She wrote a thread about this. I'm not going to read this. But I just wanted to show that, yes, she had a meltdown. And yes, she was talking about force the vote again, and she took this really personally. I'm not going to read it. I don't want to engage in that kind of behavior, but I want to watch the clip here because it's funny.
One of the more fracturing and extremely divisive debates in recent memory occurred over this idea called force the vote, which sought to pressure progressive Congress.
I just want to look at Noam Chomsky's reaction. He's like, all right, I'm bracing for impact. Here we go.
Sought to pressure progressive Congress people into using their leverage to essentially threaten Speaker Pelosi's reelection, and as a result, potentially get some policy concessions.
Noam Chomsky licks his lips. He's getting ready. He's like, all right, let's
potentially get some policy concessions, or at very least a floor vote on Medicare for all. If you paid attention at all to this debate, did you have an opinion on the strategy? And do you think that elected progressives, Congress people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Ro Khanna, who believe in policies like Medicare for all and a Green New Deal, have a responsibility to be fighting to push President Joe Biden and his administration even harder by using their leverage? And
this is one long-ass question.
In order to get policy concessions?
Let's take a look at the real...
I love it. Noam is just like... He's not having it. He's just not having it. Noam is thinking what I've been thinking. I've listened to this for 50 fucking seconds. Can I speak already?
Sessions?
Let's take a look at the real world, not a dream world, the world we live in. Suppose you manage to push Pelosi to say, let's have a vote on Medicare for all. And in the Senate, push Schumer to have it.
Imagine you're the editor. And you're like, okay, so we've got a little subscribe notification. Let's put that over Noam Chomsky's face. I'm sorry. I don't do the subscription notification bullshit in my editing, right? I just, edit the clips and then upload them just that's it. I don't do any editing. But imagine you're editing a clip and you put the subscription notification image on Noam Chomsky's face as he is answering your question. I'm sorry, but that's just rude. Have a
vote on Medicare for all. And in the Senate, push Schumer.
And the noise is so annoying.
We know exactly what's going to happen. 50 Republicans will vote against it. A large number of Democrats will vote against it. 2, certainly. Manchin and Sinema, probably plenty of others. So what we're saying is, let's do something to be defeated. Is that a strategy?
They're dumbfounded. They don't even know what to say. They don't even know what to say. Noam is trying to end the segment, right? And then they're just dumbfounded. They're like, wait a second. Did we just get destroyed live on stream?
Is that a strategy?
Look at that. I don't know these people, and they seem like fine, young, individuals. I don't know what they're, this is the second time I've seen a clip from the Vanguard podcast. And both times, they've not looked that good. I'm going to be honest. They've looked kind of foolish both times I've seen their podcast. They might be a good podcast, right? If you're watching me, Vanguard people, have me on. Let's have a conversation, right? But I just the reaction is so good.
I mean, it's nice to say, I want this, but we're not children.
I love it. I love it. We're not children. And again, I want to remind everyone, this is what every single person with an IQ above 10 has been thinking about force the vote the whole time. This is what we've all been saying the whole time. Is the idea of forcing the vote in specific circumstances a good idea? Absolutely. Is withholding your speakership vote from Nancy Pelosi when no one is running against her a good idea? Probably not. If your criticism is that they didn't draft a challenger to Nancy Pelosi like 6 months ago, or like 6 months before the speakership vote, yes, that's a valid criticism. I criticize them for not having a challenger to Nancy Pelosi. The idea that Nancy basically just waltzed into the speakership again with no real opposition, she had more of an opposition last time around than she did this time, that's very problematic in my estimation. But once you're in the position where Nancy Pelosi has no challenger, I'm sorry, there is no force to vote. Right? And okay, all right, awesome. You force the vote and then everyone votes down your bullshit and you lose power? Okay, well, that could be a strategy, right? Maybe, right? But you need to really okay, we need to workshop this. All right, so we force the vote and then what? Right? And when you ask anyone, right? When you ask anyone, they would say, oh, we're going to, get a list of people who to primary. All right, great. Well, we already have that list. We already know who the people who don't support Medicare for All is. We already have that list. That list already exists. So what else are we going to get? Oh, well, it's going to get media attention. All right, great. So what kind of media attention are we gonna have? Well, you're gonna have all of the mainstream press do what they did to Bernie Sanders, except tenfold. They're gonna go after them. And again, look at what happened on January 6th. Imagine if we would have been in a situation where we had no confirmed Speaker of the House on January 6th. I'm just saying. And again, you don't know the future, but I'm just throwing that out there as just throwing that out there. But again, the whole force the vote thing it's a fantasy world. It's a fiction. And again, when I debated Nico House, and he was a big force the voter, he organized the force the vote rally. They got 10 people to give a little speech for their campaign videos that they're going to use in 6 months when they run for the People's Party ticket, right? So when I spoke to Nico House, he told me that the progressives in Congress had unlimited power and they could have gotten whatever they wanted. If they withheld their vote for the speaker, they could have changed the entire infrastructure of the United States overnight if they wanted to, and they chose not to. And that's why AOC is evil. AOC had the magic wand. She could have passed any legislation on planet Earth that she had in her entire dreams, and it would have worked flawlessly, but she chose not to. Now again, if that's how government worked, let's postulate, all right, you force the vote, and then you win? Then if that's how the world works, guess what, motherfucker? We'd probably still be a slave state. We'd probably have dropped more nuclear bombs. We'd probably have already destroyed the planet by now. We'd probably, we'd probably be a hell of a lot worse than we are right now. If all it took was 10 people in Congress forcing the vote, and they could get anything that they want, right? The world would not look like it does right now. And so that, again, it's been a fantasy since the beginning, since the get-go. This has been a fucking fantasy. And so that's the problem with this, is that, again, you see people out here, and I don't know the Vanguard. I don't know if these people are just they look to me like they don't know that much about what they're talking about, and they're just trying to, hop on bandwagons, because I know they had Jimmy Dore on their show, and they asked Jimmy Dore a tough question, and then Jimmy Dore laughed it off like a fucking cringe lord, right? So I know that they're probably just trying to clout chase, and I feel it, I empathize, I get you, right? But again, if you're going to have Noam Chomsky on your show, and you're going to ask him about force the vote, I'm sorry, man, but what the fuck? Noam Chomsky, again, one of the most impressive people that's currently still alive, in my estimation, right? I could think of 10 trillion different questions I could ask Noam Chomsky that would all be significantly more interesting than force the motherfucking vote. And to me, again, it's just insulting that you're going. And again, Brianna Joy Gray, again, I don't even want to mention this Twitter thread. I have no idea what's going on here. I'm not reading this. I'm not reading any of this garbage. I don't care. But again, this shit needs to go away. Y'all need to shut the fuck up about force the vote. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. The Vanguard, Brianna Joy Gray, Jimmy Dore, all these other people and their fanboys, right? Because that's really, those are the people I speak to. I'm not speaking to Brianna Joy Gray or Jimmy Dore. I'm not speaking to the Vanguard, right? I'm speaking to their motherfucking fanboys. The people that search their goddamn names on fucking YouTube and Twitter and defend them to the death all day, every day. The motherfucking fanboys. What are you doing? Are you a fucking teenage girl defending fucking fucking like Logan Paul or something? Like, what are you doing? Do you have like a fucking deficiency going on? Why are you spending your time going on YouTube trolling accounts with fucking 300 views about forcing the vote? Are you dumb? Like, seriously, that's like, seriously, like, you live in a fantasy world at that point. You don't live in the real world. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss of sanity. I'm sorry for just everything that's going on in your life to bring you to that point. But Lord, have motherfucking, like, my God. Right? My God. You know what I mean? Like, George. Fucking, I don't even know who George is. I meant to say Jesus, but I said George. And that's how fucking disheveled I am from this clip. But Lord have mercy, that was funny. And so again, I just wanted to play this last part.
To say, I want this. But we're not children.
It's so good. We're not children. And then they just have like the look of deflation. There's like, oh, I guess I'm not a child. And again, it's one thing. You want to force the vote. You come up with a good idea. Great. And then when it doesn't work, you shut the fuck up. Right? Like, I had a good idea, right? Last summer, I said we should defund the police. Right? And then we didn't defund the police. Am I going to keep saying, well, we could have defunded the police on June 15th, 2020, if only, you know, Ilhan Omar said something on Fox on that specific moment, we could have defunded the police? No. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reassess, and I'm going to come up with other strategies to defund the motherfucking police. And if my policy, you know, of choice was Medicare for all, which it is, I'm going to come up with another fucking strategy to achieve Medicare for all. I'm not going to say, oh, look at what we could have done 5 years ago. Look what we could have done 10 years ago, right? I'm not going to say that all day, every day. I'm going to come up with more strategies to do things in the moment, because that's how you win in politics. You don't just fixate on like a random date in the past and say, on January 3rd, 2021, all of our hopes were crashed. It's like, what? Dude, what are you doing? I'm sorry. I don't know, man. It's just unbelievable to me. It's April and we're still talking about this. Like, it's unbelievable. It's crazy. It's crazy. Out of fucking control. Let me just fucking tell you.
And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint, where they thought about it.